language. Aha, thank you to whoever picked me up on that. We are now recording. Thank you all for joining us for the Council Presents. This is a monthly webinar series that we offer. First, I'd like to invite our Spanish language interpreter team to offer their announcement for us, please.
Thank you very much, Pam, for your kind introduction. Good afternoon to all of you. My name is William, and I will be today with my partner Murtado facilitating the interpretation simultaneously or synchronically between English and Spanish. Please allow me for a moment while I make my presentation as well in Spanish. Muy buenas tardes para todos. Mi nombre es William y estoy acompañado de mi compañero Murtado y el día de hoy vamos a estar generando o vamos a proveer la traducción sincrónica o simultánea para esta reunión de The Council Presents. Vamos a dar primero las instrucciones en inglés y ya pasaremos a explicarlo en español. So just to give the instructions first in English, please remember that if there's any participation from a Spanish speaker, we will have this simultaneous interpretation. And to do so, please remember to select your preferred language within the button of interpretation that you will find in the bottom of your Zoom screen and select from there your language. Remember, this would be English if you want to hear us, of course, translating from Spanish to English. You will find this, remember, once again, at the bottom of your screen. You can find there the globe icon in the shape of the interpretation. There you click, you select your language. If you don't see this icon directly, just go to those three dots that you might also have in the bottom of your screen. Click there, and you will find over there the interpretation option. That's where you can select English. Thank you very much. If there's any question, just let us know through the chat, and we will do our best to solve any inconvenience. Now I will go to Spanish. Les damos la bienvenida a esta reunión. Recordemos de nuevo, cuentan con traducción o interpretación sincrónica o simultánea. Para escuchar en el idioma de su preferencia, por favor, hagan clic en el botón que tiene la forma del globo. Este será el botón de interpretación. Está en la parte inferior de su pantalla de Zoom. Si no lo encuentran, pueden dar clic en los tres botones o en los tres punticos que aparecen allí. Una vez que le hagan clic, aparecerá esta función de interpretación y es allí donde seleccionarán español para que puedan escuchar todo lo que se está diciendo en inglés traducido a este idioma. Les agradecemos mucho y si tienen algún inconveniente, déjenos saber a través del chat y haremos todo lo posible por resolverlo. Muchas gracias. Pam, thank you very much for this space. The word is yours once again.
Always nice to have you all. Thank you. So momentarily, if it has not already happened, we will add the caption link in the meeting chat. You can find the meeting chat also at the bottom of your Zoom screen. It's also possible for you to click on the Zoom CC feature and have the captions show right on your Zoom screen. Zoom features that we can use today include raising your Zoom hand. If it's not available to you, that's okay. We have reaction features that you can give visual reaction to our guest presenter, and we also have the chat. If your comments are not for the entire group, or if they're very lengthy comments, feel free to message someone directly. I will likely not see the chat, but I'm happy for you to send me a message, and I'll get to that at the end of our time together. Also, you can adjust your personal view within Zoom by selecting either speaker view, and the interpreter will remain in view too if you need that feature, or you can select gallery view. I'd like to thank our NCCDD, as I say, home team for all of your support. That would be systems change managers Juanita Hooker, Melissa Swartz, and Philip Woodward, as well as our executive director, Sally Wells. These folks are in the roles today of our production team, and we welcome Eliza Lewis, our staff intern as well, who might get roped into doing some production work herself. Also, thanks for coordinating today's American Sign Language interpreters and our Spanish language interpreters, and CCDD Executive Assistant Stephanie Williams. So, North Carolina Council on Developmental Disabilities offers this webinar series that we're calling The Council Presents as a monthly opportunity to gather, share information and resources, and have discussions on topics related to intellectual and developmental disabilities. Each session engages around a topic related to our IDD community, with opportunities for us to share and learn together. The webinar series aligns with our 5-year state plan goal in our advocacy development work. And that advocacy development work aims to increase advocacy for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities and support more people with IDD to lead and sustain self-directed lives through self-advocacy, family advocacy, and stakeholder leaderships. I feel you might hear a lot about some of those terms throughout our day. I see that Melissa has her hand raised. Melissa, please go ahead.
Pam, your slides are not advancing. We are still seeing the number 1 slide.
Well, thank you. I did the pinky tap and it didn't tap hard enough. So thanks for that. All right. So let's see. Where was I? Today we're talking about plain language. And I'm so happy to introduce our speaker today. Here's our thanks to our staff. So I am still behind. I'd like to introduce our guest speaker today, Liz Weintraub. Nearly 10 years ago, I had the wonderful opportunity of meeting Liz. For the years, she and I would become trusted colleagues and friends, and she's a friend to my daughter as well. We would meet for coffee or dinner. My daughter and I were in DC. We played online games together during the COVID lockdown when everybody was longing for connection, laughter, and friendship. Liz was gracious enough to speak to a group of us from the North Carolina Council when we attended disability policy seminar. My first time as a North Carolinian. Had been before, but this was my first year going with the North Carolina contingent. And Liz talked to us as a group in the hotel lobby about language, giving freely of her time and expertise. Professionally, Liz works with the Association of University Centers on Disability in Washington, D.C., where she's a senior member of their policy team. Liz hosts or has hosted a long-running webinar series called Tuesday with Liz, where she makes disability policy a reality. That has transitioned to Instagram Reels currently, so those will be fun for us to watch and learn as well, Liz. And I'm going to have all of those resources in our follow-up email that I send out after today's webinar. So for our time today, Liz has requested a question and answer time about language. So in just a moment, I'll begin by asking Liz some questions, but I wanted to explain. You see here a second guest speaker is noted in my slides. Deborah Bosley is a trusted colleague and an expert in plain language as well. And unfortunately, Deborah had a last minute need to bow out, and we wish her well and are sad that you cannot be with us today, Deborah, but we certainly look forward to tapping into your expertise in the near future, we hope. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing screen. And hi, Liz. I didn't see you for a while I had my shared screen on. I'm so happy that you're with us. You look super relaxed. Good, good. Well, thank you. Thank you for making time. Thank you for agreeing to be here today. This is, I don't know of a more expert colleague in the area of plain language, and I can't wait for folks in North Carolina to learn from you and learn with me from you. So, how about we jump right in and I start asking you some questions?
Yes, sure.
Okay, cool. So first of all, can you tell us, Liz, what you mean when we say plain language or when you say plain language?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me, Pam, to speak to you today. Plain language is one of my favorite topics to talk about, because I think that it's really important that, me and my friends, and eventually it has become necessary for others to understand what's going on in policy as well as other areas. But I know more about policy because that's what I do. But I even forgot. I apologize. What was
No. I was asking you, what do you mean when you say plain language?
Okay. What I mean is language that I can that anyone can pick up. Pick up something and say, gee, I understand this. And use only the words that are necessary to describe what you're talking about.
Exactly. And Liz, do we want to have to read the same one-page document 10 times
What?
do we want to have to read the same document 10 times over to understand it?
No, I think it's really necessary to pick up something. For example, right now everyone's talking about Medicaid. Right now everyone's talking about the Department of Education. Those are the two of the biggest things that people are talking about and worrying about in policy. And so we need to make sure that everyone can understand it. And only one document is necessary.
Okay, cool. Interpreter switch. Liz, when did you first begin to learn about plain language?
When did I learn?
Yeah.
When I was at South Africa's Becoming in Power, because South Africa Becoming in Power is an organization made up and for people with disability, and that's that's when I learned.
That's awesome. And they're still doing good work as well around plain language. So, your opinion, Liz, why is plain language important?
I'll tell you a story, if I can. And I think this is why plain language is important. When I go to meetings, it's hard for me to understand big words, and how can I be part of the community if I don't understand what's going on? And but if people write things in plain language, then I can understand what's going on. or my friends can understand, or your daughter.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I remember years ago, Liz, you know how we sit in those ISP meetings, many of us, and somebody tells us about how to know our rights. And gracious, it's a lot of pages long. And then one year they came along and they presented my daughter with one page, Know Your Rights, and it was written in plain language. So at that point, plain language was important to her because she could understand how to make decisions about her own life. So that's another reason that
That's a great day. And it reminded me of when I'm asked to sign something, and I read things because I'm taught to read things, but I don't understand what's going on. I just trust that I should understand it. But then, but if I don't understand it, how can I sign something?
I completely agree. Let's try something here today, Liz. We have 33 people in this meeting. If you are able, so we're going to ask you to use the react. If you are able to click on the react button and give a thumbs up, if you've ever signed something that you did not completely understand, give us a thumbs up and let's see how many. Oh,
Wow. And
lots of thumbs ups.
that's frustrating, especially in policy. I yes, yes. When I'm in meetings, yes, I'll I'll um I'll um um I'll be able to ask my boss or my friend or whoever um what what this means or that means, but I want to understand it myself. I want to understand it. And if I can, is if I can tell you a quick story.
Please.
One time, and this is how Tuesdays with Liz became a reality. Um, and as Pam said, it has now become disability policy for all. We did an Instagram post. So so when I was probably 8 or 9, I sat at the dinner table. I was included in all the dinner table conversation. Well, most of them. I can't say that I was included in everything. And it was about policy because my family wasn't interested in policy. My father was an editor and publisher, so policy was in our blood. I understand it might not be the way you run your family, but they're my family and I love them. And I kept on asking, what does this mean? What does that mean? What does this mean? And my father said, look it up, look it up, look it up. Well, that might be good, but it doesn't work for me. And and so when I had the opportunity to at AUCD to make a video, I wanted to make sure that my friends could understand what Medicaid means, or what does the ABLE Act mean, or what does home community-based services mean, or any other act means, legislation means. And so rather than asking you, Pam, or Wally, which I know you guys do a wonderful job explaining things, I want to understand them myself. Because it's more powerful if I understand it. And now that I am learning more, I can look up on GTPT chat or the dictionary, mostly the AI things. I'll learn better.
Yeah, so I wasn't fully prepared to go into AI. We can talk about that maybe in a little bit, Liz, but I appreciate hearing a little bit about your process. Do you ever think now about, wow, I wish I could go back, Dad, and kind of make you give the words? Because it's not always easy for everybody to look it up. It's very time consuming. And so I had one of our council members ask me to ask a question like, what exactly is plain language? Like, tell me in plain language. Well, one thing we might say in response to that is plain language is saying the thing in a way that most everyone can understand. And sometimes, having an educator background, sometimes I might estimate a grade level reading level. And we can say that plain language is oftentimes written, what would you say, fourth or fifth grade reading level?
Yeah, plain language is, there's a debate in the disability community, but a lot of stuff, a lot of the SAPE members will often say third to fourth grade level. Although I have to say, some people will say grade 6, grade 6 to the pass.
Yeah. And we're not talking about this today, but there is a different concept called easy read version, which is even a lower entry level reading level. But that helps us to understand. And whether we're using plain language when we speak or when we write, it's using words that most people can understand, or maybe even words that more people can understand. Is that reasonable?
Yes.
Okay. So we also had a question come to us. Can someone learn how to write and give information in plain language? Then they ask, is there a class or something like that somebody can attend?
I don't know of a class. I think what people will often say is that you have to learn, you have to work with a person with an intellectual disability. I can tell you a process about plain language. But if a person without a disability say, sure, I know what plain language is, and I'll do it myself. And a lot of people will do that because it will take less time to talk to me, send it to me. Um, and we're all busy these days. We're all very, very busy these days. So it's easier to just do it. But if you're missing that step about, if you're missing that step in sending it to me or sending it to anyone with an intellectual disability, then you're missing a real plain language, authentic plain language.
Okay, I think that makes a lot of sense. So I thought you were going to tell us this story, and I think I have it later on in our talking points. But since you mentioned it, can you go ahead and tell us a little bit about your experience when you were on the Maryland Council on Developmental Disabilities and you sat in a council meeting and said, we need all of these documents to be rewritten in plain language because I'm a council member and I don't understand this stuff. And then what did they do?
Yes. I worked with the so after that, the executive director, the council director hired the former director, who happened to be a good friend of mine, said they hired him to kind of go through the materials, and then with me, I would underline the words that I didn't understand or someone wouldn't understand, and then we would talk it through. And that might sound like it's time consuming. For his name is Brian. I'm sure he wouldn't care if I use his name. It would take Brian time to send it to me, but it's the only way to do it.
And I imagine that project took weeks, if not months, to work through for the two of you. Because didn't
Yes.
you say you would go back to Brian and say, I still don't understand this, and he would have to say it differently. And so that check back and
Yes.
forth, like you were mentioning,
Yes.
that check for understanding is so important. I can think that I'm saying something really great, but if it doesn't make sense to the person who's reading or listening, then like, what's that about?
Yes.
Yeah, so I bet, do you even remember how many weeks or months that took you guys, Liz?
I'm guessing probably a whole summer.
Okay.
Maybe 2 or 3.
Mm,
Maybe a month or 2. I'm
okay.
not sure.
Okay. Another important lesson that I have learned from you and from others, but you are the one who reminds me, or early on reminded me frequently, is talk about acronyms and what those do when we're in spaces that people think we should know what that group of letters means. Can you talk about that?
Okay. Well, the disability community is very famous for for acronyms, like strategic council. What the NCDD? What does that mean to anyone? If a person with a disability or anyone, and by the way, I should say plain language. If I haven't already said that, plain language is for everyone to belong to the conversation. But I don't understand what AUCD is or the council is. So in the beginning, the first sentence, you should always say the North Carolina Developmental Disabilities Council or the Council on Developmental Disability, excuse me. And then you can say NCDD because I don't understand what that means. Someone else might not understand what that means. I work for AUCD. I bet a lot of people don't know what AUCD is. It stands for the Association for Universities Centers on Disability, and what that is your our center is our member is in North Carolina is Carolina Institute, and if you haven't already worked with them, I'm sure you have. And you should. I know Kenneth Kelty is a member, just got on the council. That's wonderful. Maybe he's already he's on the call today. I don't know. But people might not understand what AUCD is, so you need to write that out. SAFE is another acronym. Stands for South Advocates Becoming Empowered. Does that answer your question?
It really does. Excuse me 1 minute. Okay, I had a chat message that my microphone was going in and out, and I think it was because I had a fan on in my office. Our air conditioner is broken, so it's kind of hot, and I'll sacrifice my comfort for being heard better. So I had to scoot over there and turn the fan off. Aren't you glad for all the inside stories here? Another point in terms of written language, Liz, that is not actually language specifically, but another thing I've learned from you that helps plain language when you're writing is to have a lot of white space on the page. My eyes, I have literally said, my eyes are tired. And when I see a page full of text, I sometimes just feel like, oh, I don't want to read all of that. But tell us what happens when we have more white space and fewer words, and how that supports a plain language reader or user.
That's a great question, and that's mostly I think it's in the policy world. A lot of the time people will have a big sentence about or big a lot of the time people will write and my eyes don't work they get tired. I'm tired after 2 sentences or 3 sentences. So I give up. I give up because I'm tired. And yes, I might be interested, and yes, I want to learn, but my eyes get tired. So I get lost in the work the written communication, and I'll be like, what am I reading?
And it can help our focus too, right? When there's
Yes.
more space between
Yes.
all of the words. Okay, that's cool. Thank you. Liz, is plain language only helpful for people with disabilities, or does it benefit more people?
As I said, as I will say this again and again, it benefits everyone. You might think that you might understand because you have a Ph.D. or all those letters behind your name, but plain language helps everyone to understand because it's simple, it's easy. I can tell you a story and this is a Senate. This is um in Congress. So during the Kavanaugh case, which I had the honor of testifying in that case. It's a very interesting case about people's rights. And we can talk about that some other time. But we made up a plain language version of what's in the the case in the case was called Doe versus DC, and the case was about people with disabilities and their rights, and we made up a plain language version. So because it was about people with disability and nothing about us, without us, we should understand what's going on. The case because it was about us. So guess who ran after us in Congress? The staffers for plain language because it was easier, it shorter time. They don't have time to read 10, 12 pages of text, but the plain language version was probably a page or two and it takes a shorter amount of time. And people, as I said, we're all busy these days. You can pick up something and learn what's going on in a page versus 10 pages. Our disability policy news, which is on recess, which is taking a break this summer, but there's a wonky section of the to understand policy news, and then there's a 2-sentence or 3-sentence in plain language. What would you like to read? If you only have 5 minutes or 2 minutes. The plain language. So,
Yep. Put a link to that in the chat for those who are interested. And I'll share again that this will be in resources that I'll send out following today. Liz, I'm going to share my screen because you are making an excellent point about how plain language is helpful to everyone. And I think you're going to recognize this one too. So Liz lives in Maryland. Also in Maryland, in conjunction with the Maryland Developmental Disabilities Council, the I call it the DMV, the Department of Motor Vehicles, translated or rewrote their driver's handbook in plain language. You can see on the screen here that there was a 15% increase in the pass rate for people using that revised handbook. We see a photo here from the Maryland Press of a driver there. Then the plain language version was translated into 17 spoken languages for Maryland students wanting to get a driver's license, including a translation into American Sign Language. And this was initially for people with autism and other intellectual disabilities as an accommodation, but we can see that it went well beyond that. And I got this information from your executive director there for the Maryland DD Council, and we're offering some additional news sources for folks who want to learn more about that. But Liz, I mean, it's really making your point that language is for everybody, not just for Liz Weintraub, the policy wonk that lives in Maryland and testifies before Congress. I mean, my goodness. It makes good sense, doesn't it?
yes, yes.
Yeah.
And it's probably cheaper because time is money. Time is money. And as I said, would you rather spend 5 minutes reading a 4-page document versus a 10-page document about the same thing?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I want to offer one more thing, and then I imagine we have some folks here who might like to ask you some questions. Is that okay if we ask questions that
Yes.
you have not prepared?
Sure.
Okay.
Can I just add
Yeah.
a few resources? There's a book called Children Writers Book that I would recommend. It has by grade level, and it's just a wonderful book. And you can get that on Amazon. I know Amazon and some people don't like Amazon or whatever, but you can also try to find it some other ways.
Okay.
Also the STAR Tech, which is the Self Advocacy Technical Resource Center. I think they're still funded to self-advocates becoming empowered. Or the Green Mountain Self-Advocates. They're wonderful people and a wonderful resource around that. And the person that I would recommend you talking to is Max Barrow from Vermont.
Max is a friend of the North Carolina Council on Developmental Disabilities. And Nicole is a friend of mine, so
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
thank you for that.
And then the impact on the Minnesota newsletter, they just wrote a whole edition, which I had the honor of being one of the editors of, on plain language. So those are the three resources that I would recommend.
I love that, Liz. For those of us who think that we write in plain language. Now, I'm not recommending this site over all others. Are you seeing a website? Can I
Yes.
screen share? Okay. This is one of the online tools that I've used before. It's a website called Readable, readable.com. And what Readable does, and by the way, this is just the free version. I wouldn't, I don't have a paid for version, but what Readable does is here, I'm going to copy a paragraph from later on in our talking points. And oh, shucks, it's not going to act right for me right now, but it lets me post text in this box. And then it will give me a reading level score. And so, oh yeah, here we go. Okay. So it's telling me these things, oopsies, these things about what I have written. So it doesn't normally act up for me. Of course, it's going to do that when I'm showing everybody what I'm trying to work on. But there are free online tools like this and other options that help us look more clearly at the level of our writing and whether something I sure can. Yeah, I'm going to get that from Liz Nice, and I'll make sure. I don't know if I can put it in the chat, but I'll certainly put it in our resources. The question, Liz, was if we could add the name of your book. Do you want to tell me?
My book?
Well, yes, for sure, your book. We haven't mentioned that yet, but thank you for reminding me. But you mentioned the children's writer book.
Yes. Yes.
What's the title of that?
Children's Writing.
Oh, okay.
Children Writers Word Book.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. So now we have a visual too.
And
It looks like a blue or purple book.
It's a basic grade levels.
Okay, thanks for the question, and Liz, thanks for the reply. So folks, again, super sorry that we did not have opportunity to hear from Deborah. Deborah comes at this work from a very different perspective and has been a technical writing instructor for more than 20 years and a plain language expert for equally as much time. And she works with large businesses to make sure that their writing is written in plain language. So if she's finding that her corporate clients find value in plain language, again, I agree with Liz that many of us can learn and implement as well. So I wanted to see if there are questions from among others of us who are on the call. I don't want to call out names, but I'm happy to see a lot of friends and coworkers here. Anybody want to either put a question in the chat or raise a hand or just speak up and ask a question of Liz? Oh, thank you. And not only does Liz have a bomb job in Washington, D.C. Not only has she testified before Congress, not only is she a world traveler who just recently went on safari in Africa, but Liz is a published author. Liz, if I've heard you say it once, I've heard you say all means all 100 times. That is your favorite quote. And that's actually the title of Liz's book. So I commend to you, Liz Weintraub, author of All Means All, My Life in Advocacy. Thank you for sharing the title.
And I see Philip is asking want to ask a question.
Yeah, Philip, go ahead, please.
And then I'll tell you why I'm using all means all.
Philip
Yeah.
Woodward. I'm a system change manager here at the North Carolina Council on Developmental Disabilities, and I am hard of hearing. Although English is my first language, but I wanted to say I know many deaf people who were born deaf and American Sign Language is their first language. So plain language can help them, particularly when they have to read something, not when they're listening to something and they have an American Sign Language interpreter available to them, but when they have to read. Their brain might think in terms of American Sign Language, and American Sign Language is structurally different than standard English. So the simpler the written word is, the easier it will be for the deaf person to understand the content or the message. So I just wanted to share that's another example how plain language can benefit everyone. Thank you, Liz.
Sure. That's interesting. As I have said, it can benefit everyone. All means all. Thank you for saying, mention that, Philip.
That's great.
Elise?
It looks like you have your hand raised.
Hi, hi, my name is Elsa Huerta, and I start to speak in Spanish.
Just one moment, Elsa. So, for those who missed the announcement at the beginning, we have Spanish interpreters, and if we want to hear Elsa's question in English, would you please click on the three dots? And Liz, that means you and I are going to do the same thing. We'll click on the three dots at the bottom of our screen. And then we'll click on interpretation. And then we're going to select listen in English. So Elsa, thank you so much for helping us practice that. I'm going to make sure that we are all set. Three dots. Okay, I think we're set. Please go ahead.
Ok, bueno, muchas gracias por abrir este espacio a las personas que hablamos español. Es comentario, no es pregunta. Yo me identifico en esta parte del lenguaje sencillo porque hablo el inglés limitado y me pongo nerviosa cuando tengo que hablar inglés. Cuando las personas no tienen una dicción entrenada al hablar, he aprendido a leer los labios. De esa manera he podido navegar con el lenguaje en inglés. Lo otro que mencionaba Liz, el uso de las siglas en los correos electrónicos ha sido un reto para mí porque la inteligencia artificial muchas veces no tiene el significado de siglas o las busco en internet y es confuso. Entonces el uso de siglas ha sido un reto para mí. Y nuevamente, muchas gracias por abrir este espacio a los que hablamos español.
So thank you very much. Again, we're demonstrating Liz's point that plain language is for everyone. Iris, I see you have a hand raised. Please go ahead.
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate that. I wasn't really going to say anything, but when Elsa popped in, that brought a very good point. My first language is Spanish. I was born and raised in the Caribbean, and I've been here for 27 years. And not only that, English is my second language. I'm also a political candidate in North Carolina for the House of Representatives, in addition to the work I do for families and children with disabilities across the state. I have a child with a disability, and I wanted to say thank you to Liz because there are a lot of changes. There's a lot of things happening, and keeping things simple, not just for the plain language, but also even on the political ramification of things. So many people get confused with how things come across, and sometimes they don't even know what they're reading. And interpretation is a big factor. If you don't know what you're reading, if you're not comprehending, sometimes not only that you make their assumption on a wrong subject, but you could also be making a decision, whether it's voting or opinion about something that can have a huge impact in your life going forward and for others. So thank you again, Liz, for doing what you do, and Elsa for saying that. That was a great point. Appreciate the time. Thank you.
And thank you for mentioning about voting Iris, because in Maryland, and I think it's another state, I'm not sure how many states there is, but there is a plain language act that says that the ballots need to be in plain language so people can vote. And I don't need to ask someone to help me with that.
Super important. Yes, thank you. I'm looking at the time, and I'm really sad that our time is almost coming to an end. I do want to give one more call in case there are questions. I see Diane might have a question. Hi, Diane. Welcome.
Hello. I appreciate so much what you've shared with us so far, but I'm just wondering, in some of these cases where you have helped organizations or entities like the drivers, how did you get them to agree that it was necessary? What really took, what work and steps did you take to get them to agree to those pieces?
Well, the driver license, I wasn't part of. I think it was the Maryland Council and the Saps family, and especially Lawrence. But what I would say is that I can understand that. Plain language helps me to belong to the conversation, and then therefore someone like Rachel London, who is our executive director for our council, will say, gee, you're right, you're absolutely right, we should put it in plain language so you and your friends can be part of the conversation.
If I may, so Rachel is the version of Tally in Maryland. Once there were those successes, other groups, Diane, came along and saw the value as well. And as Liz was saying, they worked with people with IDD to make sure that the content was understandable. We are 1 minute over, Diane. Thank you for your question. I'm happy to follow up with you. And if anything comes of that from our direct conversation in terms of a resource, I'm happy to share that as well with the email that I send out. We thank you again so very much for being with us today. In the chat, you'll find a link to a satisfaction survey. Your responses allow us to give a report to our federal funders for how we spend the dollars that are given to us to serve the people of North Carolina in terms of advocacy and education related to people with intellectual and other developmental disabilities. I thank you for being here. I thank you in advance for your responses to the survey. You have my email to follow up with any questions, and give me, I don't know, maybe less than a week, and I'll compile this recording and other resource notes and send out to all who registered. Thank you again, and we wish you a happy, what is it? A happy Thursday. Bye, everybody.
Bye.